Welcome to the CLIMAX Academy Live. I'm Jim Miller, the Global Training Manager. This video series we're doing gives people the overview of our equipment. And today we're going to be going over the torches and accessories for the BW3000 auto bore welder. At this time, I'd like to introduce our product line expert, Mr. Fitz Acheson, who you'll see in the video, and he will also be conducting the Q&A at the end of the video. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to submit those to the Zoom Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. And if we don't get to your question during this live session, we will be sure to answer that at a later time. So as always, I always like to start off with safety first. We always want to do a risk assessment of the area that we're working in. We want to carefully look around the area, look for any kind of hazards, things that could come in contact with us or the equipment. I want to watch for cords, trip hazards. Anytime we're making any adjustments to this machine, especially during operation, want to make sure we remove power in one form or another. Want to watch out for sharp objects, chips, cutting tools, any kind of pinch hazards, anything that's going to potentially harm us while we're operating the equipment. We always want to make safety the number one priority. So once we're comfortable with our surroundings and we are ready to get started, we'll go ahead and play this video. But again, during this session, if you have any questions at all, go to that Zoom Q&A at the bottom of the screen and type your questions in there, and we will be sure to get to those after the video plays.
Hello, my name is Fitz Acheson. I work for CLIMAX in the tech support and training department. I'm standing here in my father's antique machine shop where the bore welder was developed. And today I'd like to do a short video on the attachments that you can put on a BW3 or 306P bore welder. And with that, let's get started. Before we get moving with the bore welder accessories, I'd like to discuss the ways that the bore welder can be mounted to the part. When customers are using a CLIMAX BB5, BB45, or a BB3, the interface kit allows the bore welder to effectively be clamped to the outside of the spherical mount of the bearing. This should take about 2 minutes to accomplish. If a boring bar is not being used, or if you've run out of bearings and you need to attach a bore welder individually, the adjustable base can be used. All you do is weld a bolt down to the part, and then you bolt the adjustable base down. The base provides jacking bolts for parallelism adjustment and also a horizontal slide to help with alignment. So this should take about 5 to 10 minutes to set up and get welding. Also, the machine is provided in cases with a radial mount to allow easy placement of the bore welder when using the adjustable base. The radial mounts are not used in the case of the CLIMAX interface kit. Bore torches. So the bore torches that are provided with a typical CLIMAX package are the double-aught to the number 5 torch spanning from 7/8 to 13 inches. Above 13 inches, typically the same gooseneck torch is provided. They just get longer and longer in the straight section. Those torches would be the 6 through 12, and that range is from 13 to 27 inches. When customers are using a CLIMAX BB5 and they want to go to a larger diameter and the gooseneck creates a problem with interference with the bearing mount, this bearing clearance torch is provided to take care of that problem. This torch will go from 13 to 27 inches. To go above the 27-inch range, the extended range torch is provided. This will go from 27 to 54 inches. For very small bores, the triple-aught torch is made. This will go down to a 1/2 inch bore. And that's a quick overview of bore torches. When using any of the BORTECH or CLIMAX torches, the orientation fitting is removed from the bore welder and attached to the torch. Then the torch can be installed into the bore welder. The advantage of this is that if you need to remove the torch to replace replace contact tips or clean a nozzle, you can feed wire out, clip the wire, pull the torch out, and you haven't moved the bore welder. If you want to add or take away extensions, all you do is remove the orientation fitting and add the extension of your choice. All of the BORTECH CLIMAX torches, extensions have captive liner inside the part. So there's no need to thread liner through the whole thing. So you install the parts together and then put it on the offset head and you're ready to go. The Trammel torch is built to do outside diameters from 14 inches in diameter, 10 inches down to 1 inch in diameter. Now, the challenge with the Trammel torch is that if you can't reach further down the shaft than 10 inches, how would you be able to use the torch anymore? And so what we made was something called the standard torch adapter. The standard torch adapter is an adapter that allows you to use the standard BORTECH torches and extensions on a Trammel torch. And so installed, it allows deeper reach and almost, technically, it's not unlimited, but probably another 20 or 30 inches of reach wouldn't be out of standard. Okay, let's talk about facing heads. So these torches are for facing a flat surface. This is the standard facing head, and this is the compact facing head. The standard facing head has a up to 20-inch range by, again, adding or subtracting the radial extenders. The stroke is 4 inches, just over 4 inches, and the feed of the torch is provided by the fact that the torch rotates around a stationary gear, and the other gear is driven by and drives this feed mechanism out. So they put a Tommy rod or a reaction rod here, and that reaction rod holds the gear stationary. And so this torch can't be used easily with a BW3000 because of the extended length of this torch. So the compact face torch was developed to manage working within the confines of the CLIMAX BB5 bearing mount. So this will fit underneath the bearing mount, and it can have a range of up to 20 inches as well. So by building out the torch head or bringing it in, you can weld down to 2 inches and up to 20 inches. Both of these torches have variable feed only by changing the lead screw. So when you're welding out of position, you use a lead screw that's a fine lead screw, which allows 125 thou per revolution spiral feed. And if you're welding in position, we use a coarse lead screw, which provides 166 thou per revolution. And so each torch comes with different lead screws to allow you to weld out of position or in position. And this is typically used with the adjustable base, mounting rod extender, and radial mounts. And this is used in conjunction with the BB5 mounting system. Okay, so the torch we have here is the Conical seat torch. This is for welding angled surfaces continuously in a spiral fashion. So as the torch turns, the gear is held stationary and the lead screw drives the traveling assembly in or out, depending on which way you rotate the torch. Feed distance is adjustable by changing the lead screw. The capacity of this torch can be up to 20 inches down to 1 inch diameter, and the angle change could be from a negative 15-degree angle all the way up to a 90 up. So it's a very versatile torch. And the torch is attached to the bore welder, usually with an extension. Because when this is set to a high angle, the trigger, or the Tommy rod, needs to clear this surface. So as this turns, this is kept clear of hitting that. So great torch, very comprehensive, and perfect for welding angled seat surfaces. When using torch extensions over, say, 45 inches, it's possible that a deflection in the torch string will be a disadvantage to your welding procedure. So we use a steady rest assembly and a remote offset head to allow rigid positioning of the torch. So what we do to install it is set the offset head on the bore welder to 0 offset, so there's no run out in the extension string. Then we remove the torch, and you orient this in a way that it's rigid in both directions. If it's this way, it doesn't work. So make sure the screws are 90 degrees to each other. And then this is also isolated electrically, so no current will travel to the part, weld current. And then you just take the sag out of the system, clamp it to something, tack weld it, whatever you have to do in the situation. Install the remote offset head. And then install the torch. And you're off to the races. Torch counterbalance kit. The kit consists of these parts here with a sliding balance. It's used specifically on torches above number 6 when you're in the horizontal axis. All you're trying to do is balance out the weight of the torch with this weight, and as soon as you get it in the right position, then the torch's rotation speed will be consistent throughout the whole rotation. And that's the counterbalance kit. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope we can help you in the future. If there are any questions we can answer, please contact CLIMAX. My name is Fitz Acheson. Thank you.
Hello, this is Fitz Acheson from the CLIMAX Training, Applications, and Technical Support Team. Welcome to the question and answer section of this meeting. I look forward to answering your questions. I was looking at the Q&As here. We've got one asking what extensions are included in the torch setups, i.e. how long and various included torch extensions. So generally we supply the packages with 3, 6, 12, and 18-inch extensions, and those can be, most of the time, just that amount gets people through what they need. If you need more, they're easy to buy and add on. We got another one here. Why is the torch angle 45 degrees on the bore torches? In general, the 45-degree angle is just because the previous bead is this way and the base metal is that way, and 45 bisects that, and it gives us the best. It gives us the best bead shape and profile for welding in any position. Let's see here. So another one here says, how many amps can I run with a the single aught bore torch? That's this size torch. This torch is typically running at a 1.75 or up to 3-inch diameter bores. If you're running mild steel, it'd be no problem to run 150 to 170 amps. But the problem is if you get it deep in a small bore, there's a lot of reflected heat energy back to the torch. So in general, maybe more like 130 to 150 amps is probably a better choice for this torch. For short periods of time, you can run hotter. Let's see, what changes do I have to make to run 045 wire with any of these accessories? Okay, so most of the torches just need to have the liner, the contact tip replaced with an 045 contact tip. The liner will take 035 and 045 wire, and you'd also need to flip over the feed rolls and the wire feeder to the 045. So no problem to do that. Let's see here, another one. When using the compact face torch, what is the distance required between the BB5 bearing mount and the part? Now, that's a good question. The spec calls out 6 inches, but a lot of people, the CLIMAX bearing mount's a bit tighter than that. So 6 inches is the spec answer, but you can get it down to 5 inches with some mods. So you can do a pretty good job getting pretty tight in there. And then there's another one about the compact face torch. What is the radial stroke? The radial stroke of the compact face torch is 2.2 inches. And if you needed to extend it, you could, but then the swing of the torch gets longer and that might be a problem with clearance, but 2.2 inches is that. And another person says, are all the CLIMAX accessories backwards compatible with the older BORTECH machine? And that is, from the accessory point of view, absolutely. All of the old machines have the same connection as the new machine. So the 3/4 10 fittings and everything, that's all the same stuff. So anything that you buy today is backwards compatible as far as the accessories regarding welding. Let's see here. Here's a good one. So tell us something about configuration for welding in vertical position or ceilings placed parts. I assume that he's referring to the bore welder being upside down, so reaching overhead. And there is a little bit of backlash in the bore welder vertically. So you have a little bit of this backlash. When you're upside down, it's possible that the bore welder the quill positioner and quill may cock a little bit, and you may end up with the bore welder not stepping and then it falling down. And we make a counterbalance to balance out the weight of the rotation motor if you get into that problem. The other challenge is on the older machines, spatter would roll down and get into the gear train and affect the limit system. But the present machines, the BW3 has a different mechanism for the limits. The limit mechanism is totally changed on the BW3. And so you don't generally have the problems with the limits being messed up, but you still don't want to suck spatter into the rack. So you can make a shield for the orientation fitting that would prevent spatter from going up inside the machine. Other than that, welding wise, the bead is a lot like welding in the vertical. So I hope that answers the question. So the maximum diameter mild steel fill wire that can be run in the compact torch. In general, we recommend sticking with the 035 wire. It's possible to run 045, but you'd be crawling. I mean, the wire would be going so slow to stay within the 130 to 150 amps that you'd be running with that torch. So generally 035 is the best wire to run with that torch. We have another question. What type of wire can you use? Flux core, solid, etc. All of these torches are generally built to run any wire, metal core, flux core, or a solid wire. Typically, we try to stay away from spray transfer, so that's part of the 45-degree torch angle. If you're going to run spray, we're running 45, and it might actually undercut a little bit. So generally, we don't run spray per se, although people do. In general, flux core or solid wire or metal core wire will work with the bore welder. Just keep an eye on your weld current to be nice to the bore welder. 175 amps max, and back it off if you're in a small hole. So, and the flux usually isn't a problem with the slag inclusions aren't usually an issue. You use a self-peeling flux and you should be all right. Okay, got another one. Is the bore welder compatible with all manufacturer welders? That's kind of a broad question. Overall, we will be able to interface with most weld power supplies that have CV capability and a remote control port. But there are some specifics in there. So I think basically we usually answer this on a case-by-case basis. And you do want to be careful about using welding power supplies that have been beaten to death air arcing. It kind of reduces the low end voltage control of the power supply. So give us a call if you need anything specific answered on that. Let's see here. And looks like there's somebody said, what's the diameter range for the face torch? Both the face torches are basically, the small face torch says 2 to 20 inches at the compact, and then the normal face torch is 1 to 20 inches. And all that stuff can be varied by the customer just by changing the length of this rod here. Maybe I can switch views here. So this rod length can be changed and it'd be put outside or inside, and you can put a 2, a 4 inch, a 6 inch, and change the range of the torch by doing that. So, and oh, this is a great question. How would you decide between the 2 wire feeders available? This is a little off topic, but people usually use the enclosed feeder and the shop style feeder as their 2 options. And generally, CLIMAX is selling an enclosed feeder. The enclosed feeder has a different feed mechanism than the shop style feeder, and it's a compact drive. The actual feeding capability of the shop style feeder is better than the enclosed feeder. And also the shop style feeder, you can use a wire straightener, which is really important for certain applications. Most people don't really mind if they don't have that, but good question. And so this is a little trick question here. We get, does the amp limit you described earlier apply only to deep bore applications? How does this change for shallow bores? And what is the ratio of depth to diameter that's considered a deep bore? Great question. It's a little bit, this could get a little deep, but generally if I was working in a 2-inch bore that was 12 inches deep, I would consider that a deep bore. And what I'm trying to do is weld for as long as possible without stopping, whether it's to replace a contact tip or clean the nozzle, whatever I'm trying to do, I'm trying to make sure I can weld as long as possible without stopping and without any issues in general, welding wise. So it depends on whether the guy's running mild steel or stainless steel or Inconel or all those things. And if somebody's got a specific question, please give us a yell. You can get my address and we can go back and forth, no problem. The bore welder calls out 175 amp current limit, but we have people using the machine at 250 amps all day long. There are certain parts that get tired faster at that high amp load. So the machine can take a short burst of high current, no problem. It's just that what's the best thing to make it run for the longest if that's your requirement? Some people need more deposition and they don't care about how long it runs. They just want to do it all in one pass. And so we're always trying to balance those variables. So I hope that helps. And we can get into this a little deeper offline if we need to. And let's see. Well, I think that looks like there's one more about a Lorch, and I would ask if the person contact us directly about the Lorch Micor MiG 350, because we need to know more about that power supply. So I can't really answer that question online. So please contact us at, well, you can contact me at facheson@cpmt.com. That's no problem if you want that specific question answered. And I think that probably looks like, oh, here you go. Here's one more. How much deposition would I get in one pass with a standard face torch? Well, it depends on which lead screw you're using. So if you're using the 166 thou lead screw, which is the coarse lead screw, you'll get about 160 thou deposit, a little bit more than that. It'll clean up at about 160 thou. And if you're using the smaller lead screw or the fine lead screw, that's going to be about 125 thou deposit, or maybe clean up at 120 or 110 or something. So something like that. All right. And if I didn't get to your question, or you have a machine you'd like us to cover in the future, please submit them to askcpmt@cpmt.com. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.